It's hard to believe, but we are finally in the last month of the regular season. It's May 1st, and South Carolina has a lot of work to do, but 10 games left to go. Who knows what can happen? What's going on, everyone? Jack Veltri here for Gamecock Central, joined, as always, by my co-host, former right-handed pitcher for the Gamecocks, back in the glory days, 2010 College World Series champion, my man, Ethan Carter. Ethan, it's been a little bit, man. We did not go live last week. I was on vacation last week, took a few days off to just kind of reset. It's been a long season, man. And, we're here, we're back and ready to talk some ball. But, my man, how you doing?
Doing great, man. No, you needed the time. Like I said, going from football to basketball, straight into baseball, you need to take some time, get a good reset. So I hope you had a wonderful time. And yeah, we're blessed with some beautiful weather up here in Virginia. So, no complaints and ready for the last month of the season. And hopefully a little bit more, there's always a chance, but we'll see what we got going forward.
Yeah, and hold on, can you see me all right?
Yep. Yeah, we're good.
The Wi-Fi, like the camera was off for a second, then it's back on. So we're kind of running. The reason why we were a few minutes behind today was just the fact that we were kind of figuring out some technical issues with Wi-Fi and stuff, but I think we're good now. So I'm glad to see you, man. Glad you're doing well. And yeah, man. Right. The weather it's gorgeous outside today. And I think we'll see about the weekend here. It's going to be a little bit iffy with the weather in terms of rain and stuff, but today is gorgeous outside. Baseball series tomorrow night, South Carolina. Well, as I mentioned, the last month of the regular season here, last few weeks really, because it's not even a full month in the regular season.
Yeah.
But the last 3 weeks here, the home stretch, kicking it off with Florida tomorrow night, 7 p.m. And then you got Saturday, 4 p.m. and then Sunday, 1:30. All games on SEC Network Plus. It's a big series for the Gamecocks. They have obviously dug themselves into a very significant hole, 5-16 in league play. For some reason, they can't win these games in conference play or beat Clemson, but they're handling their business in the non-conference portion where they are fine in the non-conference series outside of Clemson, and then they've handled their business in midweeks, and that was the case this week. So who knows what we're going to see with the Gamecocks this weekend, but I'll just ask the overarching question, like, just what are your expectations for this final 3 weeks here? Like, what do you want to see if it's not going to be? Well, I mean, they got to try to fight to get to the postseason. I mean, they have a long way to go still, but I mean, what do you kind of hope to see?
Yeah, you're hoping to see some guys. One, you're trying to play. You're building towards the SEC tournament right now. That's all they're doing. If they can win a couple, if they can win these last couple series, get a better seed in the tournament, but they're really playing and trying to position themselves best to win down in Hoover. So really you're just looking for Brandon Stone to kind of, keep, stacking quality starts and keep that thing moving along. You're hoping that Jake McCoy can kind of find some groove, here down the stretch. And you hope some of these young guys can kind of find where they, find some good ABs before they go play their summer leagues, wherever they're going to go play, whether it's, up in the Cape and the CPL, I forget the Western League, what it's called, but wherever the guy,
summer league.
Yeah, exactly. It's so prevalent, it's so widespread now, but as long as these guys can, these guys are really trying to put good at bats and good games together. So that's what I'm looking forward to see if the guys are checked out. They don't seem to be. The Kentucky series wasn't great, but the guys, you don't want to see defeat. You don't want to see guys just kind of, how much longer do we got to get to the end of May? You don't want to see that. And I haven't seen that from this group. They could have easily, held their heads and packed it in a couple weeks ago, to be quite honest. So, you want to keep seeing these guys try to string some things together. That's what I'm hoping to see, these last 3 weeks, and obviously, in the tournament.
And you mentioned the fact that they really haven't seemingly given up. And I feel the same way too. And that's kind of the main message because we spoke with Paul Maneri and Evan Stone earlier today, and we'll have a little bit of audio from Maneri here in a few minutes. But talking with those guys, the big message today was the fact that they're not giving up on this year. And look, it's been tough. They know that. They know 5-16 in league play. You have an uphill battle to even get into postseason position, which like the odds are stacked against them. Like they probably need to go somewhere in the neighborhood of 7-2 or 8-1 in the final 9 SEC.
They've got to win the tournament.
Yes, winning the tournament is the easy, automatic solution. But I think in hindsight, like again, we keep talking about it. Like they're 5-16 right now. You probably need to get to about 13 wins to make the tournament.
Yeah. No, you're right.
But that's also no guarantee because, yes, while the precedent is out there that 13 wins and the top 30 RPI will get the job done, this team does have a lot of bad losses on their schedule in terms of like they don't lose to teams that they're supposed to beat. It's more so just teams that, they should beat, right? So I don't know. It's been kind of a tough year for South Carolina in that aspect, but looking forward to seeing what they can do this weekend here. And they're going to have to do without Ethan Petry, as Paul Maneri did say earlier today that he is out for the weekend and nothing further beyond that in terms of the potential of him being out for the year. Here's what Maneri had to say about not just Petry, but also an update on Nathan Hall.
Ethan is out for the weekend, obviously, and I still don't even know about Nathan. His heel did not respond well the first couple days of this week, and I haven't seen him yet today. Talked to him on the phone, but he literally was just getting out of bed, so he didn't really know how it feels. So I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that he'll be ready to go for tomorrow.
10 games. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah. So the bottom line is you play with the guys that are available, and we've had. I never like to talk about injuries and make excuses or anything like that, but we've had some pretty important injuries to us this year that who knows how much of a difference it'd make if Eli Jersenbeck had stayed healthy and Talmadge had stayed healthy and Rocky was at full strength, and you just never know, but it is what it is. You play with the guys that are available to you, and you do the very best that you can. But I just wish I had better news on Petry, and wish I knew for sure that I could tell you Hall is going to play.
And so that is what Paul Maneri had to say about Ethan Petry and Nathan Hall injury updates. So again, Petry's out for the weekend with that shoulder injury he sustained against Kentucky over the weekend, and that's not ideal. Pet's been in a sling the last few days. Did not see him out there at the Founders today when we were out there for media availability, unless I just missed him. Did not see him out there, so I wouldn't know if he was still in the sling or whatever the case might be. But he is doing baseball activity every day, according to Maneri. So I feel like there's an outside chance that he could come back this year. You got about a 2 to 4 week recovery time. And if you're on the shorter end of the stick with this recovery, you could, in theory, be back for the LSU series or, worst case, the SEC tournament. But if it's on the longer end and it's 4 weeks, I mean, by that point, South Carolina's season probably is going to already be over because, 3.5 weeks from now, you're playing in Hoover. And, the season's probably going to end in there in the first round. So it's a tough situation because Pet is obviously, he's a loyal Gamecock. He's been here for 3 years now. He could have easily gone somewhere else. Heck, after his freshman year when he was taking the world by storm, this past year, when Mark Kingston got fired, he could have easily left and just gone to another school then. But he's stuck around. He's here, and you hate it for him because he's such a good dude and he's loyal to this university and stuff, and he's a good player too. So I don't even know if you're really going to be able to replace him, but I'll kind of lead into that question before we dive into Nathan Hall. How do you kind of view what this offense can do now that your best home run hitter is out of the lineup? And I'm not sure if you watched the game the other night, man, but it was they won the game against Charleston Southern, but it was a really rough way to win a game without much of any offensive production.
Right. No, he's one of these guys that's almost irreplaceable. He's had one of the, when you look at just the raw numbers and things he's done, he's one of the best Gamecocks in history. So it's impossible to replace him. To steal the Moneyball line. They got to try to find out how to replace him in the aggregate. And that's just, with this roster, is not going to be something they're going to be able to do. So you just kind of got to look at a different way to play, something we've kind of been asking, or talking about them doing, play some more small ball, run, steal, hit and run, like these things, like, it's, you got to get on base to do that. But, there's not a guy sitting in the middle of that lineup anymore that could, leave the yard on any swing. That player's just not in your lineup now. And that's tough. So it's hard to envision what it looks like without him, because you've had almost 3 full years of what it looks like with him, and as good as a hitter as he can be. But it's, you're just kind of looking, it's like you've just gotta, as you're trying to scratch across runs before, you've got to get the claws out and really start scratching away at it now.
Yeah, and I don't know. There's no real way to replace him. I mean, Ethan obviously is one of a kind at South Carolina. He's, if you had, it'd be different if this were last year and you had like Cole Messina on your team, a few other big bashers, but you really don't have that this year. Like, and we'll get into Nathan in a second, but he's your next leading home run hitter. And then after that, I mean, you don't have much power on this team to begin with, but it really, I think, is going to become evident that this is not a power hitting team when Ethan's not out there on the field, because, no disrespect to these guys, some of them are actually good hitters in other ways. They're just not power hitters. You look at Henry Kazmar, we've been super high on this year. He has turned a corner this last month and a half here, where he's now hitting 309, and he's got 4 homers and 22 ribbies. He's a guy that's a contact bat that we have been waiting to see come along. And then ever since SEC play began, ever since the Oklahoma series, the guy has been really tearing the cover off the baseball and hitting it all over the field. You have Bo Hollins, who has admittedly struggled a little bit, but he's still giving you a really nice bat in the lineup that can hit at any time. And he's also a really good defender. Though the 2 guys in particular, I'm kind of – I know they're probably KJ Scobie's going to be in the lineup every day.
Yep.
That's without question. But his batting average, is down to 242 now. So, I mean, batting average isn't everything, and he had that walk-off double the other day in extra innings against North Florida. But the bat has kind of cooled down a little bit, and I'm looking to see more out of him, especially now that he's hitting basically in the 3-4 hole where Petry was. And then you have a guy that I have been waiting all year to see when it's just going to click for him. Kennedy Jones.
Yeah.
If there were any replacement for Ethan Petry in this lineup, no one can replace the power that guy brings. But Kennedy Jones, I thought he was going to be the next best thing right behind him in the middle of the order. And it just has not happened this year. He's got, 2 home runs this year, 15 RBIs, 260 batting average. And look, he's been a little bit banged up this year, admittedly. But, I mean, you're counting on him to do so much more. And last year was a little bit of a drop-off in terms of the production he had at UNC Greensboro for the first 2 years of his career. But this year, you were expecting him to be the 4-hole hitter, the cleanup guy that could really provide some thump if they were going to intentionally walk Petry. And that just hasn't been the case this year. And at this point in the year, if you're looking for guys to step up, I'm looking at Kennedy Jones as a guy that has got to be better these final 3 weeks.
Yeah, for sure. When we got him out of the transfer portal, we definitely thought that, he would be the kind of protection last year behind, Ethan and Cole, and this year, especially behind Ethan. And yeah, it just hasn't come. You thought, that he would get more comfortable with SEC pitching, and that he would, the game speed he'd be caught up to it. It hasn't clicked for whatever reason. Again, I know he probably doesn't lead the team in hit by pitches, but he's got to be up there, and you get hit on the hands and the elbows and those kind of things. It can mess with your confidence up there, but you expect more out of him. With KJ, kind of worried about him hitting the freshman wall. I think he's played every single game. If he hasn't, if he hasn't, he's played in 97% of them. He went from playing. What do you play in high school? 20, 25?
Yeah, including I guess postseason. The season is significantly shorter, and
that's 2 games a week. He's playing 4 or 5 games a week now. So he's hitting that little bit of freshman wall. He's been asked to do a lot at a premium position. So, hopefully he can just, he's able to get a breather during the weeks, in the midweeks and stuff like that, when they're not playing. But you're allowing these guys. To your point, I think Bo Hollins, he can get a hit at any time. Like, when he comes up, I'm not thinking, this might be an out here. It's like, oh no, Bo can absolutely run into one at any time and give this offense a little bit of jolt. But it's going to have to be a team effort, a collective effort. No one guy's going to do it. That's the thing, especially with Nathan being questionable. And Nathan's not that type of hitter. Nathan has exceeded all expectations. That's not taking anything away from Nathan this year. He's been one of the best transfers they've gotten in a long time. But he's not that type of hitter. So, and there's just not that type of hitter on the roster. So it's going to have to be a team effort, and guys not trying to do too much. Guys not changing wholesale changes of their approach of, all right, I've got to lift the ball. I gotta swing for the fences. I've got to hit this home run that Ethan would provide. I just think that it's got to be a collective effort, but one that has a plan to it, not just we're going up there hacking.
Yeah, and the big thing, and Paul mentioned this the other day after Tuesday's game, they have to be able to hit with runners in scoring position.
Exactly.
They were pretty abysmal the other day. They went 1 for 9 with runners.
They've been abysmal all year with it. They've had chances. Clemson, they had chances. Oklahoma, they had many chances, put that game away and not have it end, in heartbreak in the 9th inning. Tennessee, they had a lot of chances. They had a lot of guys on base.
Yeah.
I think that's been, this is kind of off on a tangent. I think that's been the most frustrating thing with this team this season is the chances have been there for them to be 500 in the conference or maybe a game or 2 below. But man, it's just for whatever reason that, to steal from Skip Bayless, that clutch gene just, hasn't been there this season. And those things go in ebbs and flows and whatnot. But I think that's when you look back on the 2025 South Carolina Gamecocks, it's could not get the big hit. And now they're playing from, way behind and fighting for their tournament life.
Yeah. That's the thing I worry about this weekend is the fact of, it's not just the fact that they need to hit when they have RBI opportunities. It's, are they going to be able to score enough runs with the way the pitching staff has been? Again, it's very, very inconsistent. We'll talk about the pitching as the show progresses here. But, if the pitching is putting you in a 4 or 5 hole early in this game, I don't know if you're going to be able to come back from that, especially if you don't have Nathan Hall out there. And that's where we'll kind of transition here a little bit is, so Petry's out for the weekend. And again, the SEC injury report has not come out. South Carolina has not officially put their list out yet. So right. Petry's obviously going to be on it. Hall will be on it probably, but I think it's going to be either questionable or game time decision because Maneri is a little bit optimistic, hopeful that he'll be able to play tomorrow. And it's that heel that, as Paul put it, he whacked it at A&M in that 17-0 game. It was that grand slam hit to center field. And I don't remember the play in my head. I just remember the ball going off the batter's eye or whatever. I don't think Hall would have had a chance at it, but it's just he ran into the wall, hit his heel, and it's bad luck. And it seemingly affected him a little bit. He's still a great hitter. He's hitting 345 with 7 homers this year. But if you don't have him in the lineup tomorrow or this weekend, I just wonder what your offense is really even going to do. And so here's what Paul Mainieri had to say a little bit more in depth, because I did ask him, what is it really that's keeping him from potentially seeing the field? Because obviously he's been going through workouts and stuff. He was hitting with the team today. It really is the fact that it's tough to run on that heel Achilles area. So here's what Paul had to say.
That's all that's holding him up. He can't run.
Yeah.
His heel. He's got a heel Achilles issue. So I was going to put him in to hit and just told him, look, I don't care if you walk to first base or just a little slow jog, whatever, but do not try to beat out an infield hit. I don't want a setback, But what happened was when Scobie walked, now it was a double play situation. If there was 2 outs, I would have hit him because I didn't want him to have, I didn't want him hitting into a double play. So I let Luedecke hit. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. He struck out and left the bases. We ended up leaving the bases loaded. But had Scobie made an out and it was still first and second or whatever, and there was 2 outs, I would have had Nathan hit there because he can hit fine. The outfit hitting now. Yeah. That's him in the batting cage. He can hit fine. He just can't run. So when there's 2 outs, other than trying to beat out an infield single, he could have just walked to first base, and then I would have put a pinch runner in right for him right away if he'd have gotten a hit. But it didn't end up working out that way. Fortunately, we ended up winning the game.
So I have the question here, Ethan. If he can't run, it's going to be tough to play not just hit. That's fine. That's probably the one thing he can do right now. But he's got to also be able to run the bases, and he's got to be able to play the outfield, more importantly. And he plays center field. Like, he covers the most ground of anyone in that outfield in terms of the position that he's playing. So I asked the question, if he's probably not going to be 100%, do you just DH him maybe?
That's the only option. He's I think you are, for sure risking setback, putting him in center. Maybe you slide him to right if he's feeling good. But he's clearly, at 60% probably at best when it comes to running. So I think your only, option is to DH him. But, again, that comes to the point of, okay, he hits one into the gap. Is he walking to first? All right, if he gets to first, if somebody hits a ball in the gap, is he walking to set? It's just there's too much to lose there. So I'm not sure what the game plan is. If he's able to play, but the running is at 50%, he's almost best used as a pinch hitter late in the game. That's kind of, if he can't run to play the outfield, I'm hesitant to put him at DH because he probably can't run the bases. So then it's, you use the situation coach kind of mentioned, you wait for a runner to get in scoring position, you pinch hit him. Hopefully he can hit a ball in the gap and score a guy. And then you quickly get Caden Gaskin or someone else in there to pinch run for him. But it's hard to know. They'll definitely put him through a pregame workout. They'll test what he's able to do, and they'll go from there. But it's hard with Ethan being out. You're looking for your next best hitter to be in the lineup, but then it's one of those things.
Yeah, it's tough. And look, we know Ethan's out this weekend, but losing Hall would be tough. And, the last thing you want to do is lose him even longer. Paul admitted the other day, this is something that probably he needs to just literally rest and heal, but they're in the middle of the season. And if there's any chance that he can go, I think he's going to be going to try it. So
yeah, because to your point, it's not even the middle of the season anymore. They're at the end. If this was the middle, I think they'd feel a little bit better about, all right, we're going to give him a weekend off, maybe 2 weeks off, and see how it goes. 2 weeks off, season's over. He's either got to play through it or they've got to shut him down. So yeah, to your point, he probably would do best. He would do better with some rest. But you got to see how it feels to try to get out there and not be stale when you get out there or be cold. And it's been one thing after another with these guys this year, and I hate it for them because they spend all this time and effort to get ready and get their bodies ready, and then when these things happen, it's just it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, it really does suck, to be honest. And I don't know. I think DHing him's probably the move if he's not 100%. He's not going to be 100%, but if he's not even like 70% to go play the outfield. And this brings up a question here from Big Red. If you can't run, does that put more pressure on your teammates to quote unquote pick up the slack and chasing fly balls down? I personally do think so. I think, look, the center fielder is always going to have to cover. He's got to cover the gaps. So not to say that the left and right fielder don't either, but they have to cover foul line to, right or left center field to some extent. But the center fielder, more times than not, is going to be able to track down those balls. If it's Nathan out there in center field, I wonder what that looks like, because any ball that he can normally grab in left center field at the warning track, he's normally covering about 50, 70, I don't know how much feet, but a lot of feet. And in this case, it might be a situation where a ball that he normally makes a catch on no problem, it's getting down for a double. And that's going to lead to the issue I brought up earlier. If the pitching is giving up runs in the early going, it's going to be tough to play from behind. And you can have Nathan's bat in there all you want. That's great if he's hit. I mean, it doesn't do much good if he's hitting the ball hard, but he's not able to turn a single into a double potentially on a ball that he should. There's a lot to think about there, and I just don't know what you do. You'll want him in the lineup, no doubt, because he's your best hitter. But in terms of the other factors, the running the bases, playing the outfield, which we'll see how much that affects him, I'm just not sure. But I would expect to see him out there this weekend if he's any chance available, feeling good to go, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean, if he's playing the outfield, it's going to have to be one of the corner spots. At Founders, I would probably suspect it be right. The gap in left center, I feels a little more spacious. But to Big Red's point, so whoever's playing center is going to have to know, okay, I've probably got to be shaded one or two steps over towards Nathan's side of the field now, because we're going to hopefully, we're going to shade him closer to the line to catch anything down there or get to the corner easier. And it's just a domino effect. Their pre-position will just be different. Coach Lee will have, I'm assuming Evans probably going to be in center if that's the alignment. Then Evans going to be played more right center, and then then that puts pressure on whoever's in left to cover more of the left center field, to then the left field line. And it stresses the entire outfield alignment when you have one guy who's not able to do his normal full range of motion, full range of coverage.
Yeah, it's going to be a developing story to keep an eye on. And of course, I'll be there all weekend, so be able to see what the case is with that, if he's out there warming up or whatever. But it is something to keep an eye on for sure. We're going to transition here a little bit, but before we do that, I got to talk to you guys real quick about Clint Hammond of CMG Home Loans. So maybe you are ready to take that next step and buy that dream home you've always wanted, but you don't know where to begin. Clint can help you out. He'll take you through the process step by step and get you going on that path towards buying that future home. He's been in the mortgage industry for a very, very long time now. He's a lifelong Gamecock fan. He's also a longtime supporter of Gamecock Central, so you're in the right hands with a guy like Clint. If you're interested, give him a call, 803-422-6797. The NMLS number for him is 71597, or you can go to ClintHammond.com for more info, and that will be above us here on screen if you're watching live all show long. I want to talk to you real quick about a topic from a few days ago. We had texted about it a little bit, and it's kind of caught, not off guard, but it just kind of was something that I don't think anyone was really expecting to hear. In case you missed it, Paul Maneri went on 107.5 The Game the other day, and he had some comments that caught a lot of backlash from the Gamecock fan base, and I'll read the specific one I'm referring to off here. Quote, I had just underestimated the strength of the conference and how much better the conference has gotten in the last couple of years. The players are so much bigger and stronger and more experienced and older. We have just not been able to match up in some cases with them. And I know it's something for you as a former player here, you have a lot of thoughts on. And I wrote the story on Gamecock Central the other day, and it just blew up because, again, it's something that I don't think should have been. It's okay to admit it, but I don't think it's something that should have been said in a public setting. And it basically, to me, screams admitting defeat in some ways. And I don't understand how he could have underestimated the conference because, number one, it's not like he was out of the conference for that long or out of baseball. I mean, yes, 3 years can be a little bit in terms of NIL and stuff, but I mean, he was at LSU for almost a decade and a half. Like the SEC,
15 years. Yeah.
Yes, it's not like the SEC stunk when you guys were playing back in the day. I mean, the SEC has been getting teams to Omaha for decades now. So, with you being a former player here and stuff, and when you hear that, what are kind of just your initial thoughts?
Slap in the face if I'm on the team. I'm pretty disappointed as a player hearing that. If my coach comes out and says that on a in any situation, in any scenario, but says it on the record in front of a microphone that thousands of people are going to hear and then pick up. I'm pretty disappointed as a player. Also, the SEC has won every national championship since 2017. Like they have, and I saw that on Twitter. So I did not fact check that before I looked it up, but I'm pretty sure they have won every national championship since 2017.
Yeah. SEC
it is
just a premier conference, man.
It has been. I'm left just disappointed. Like, so remove myself as a player on that team because I'm obviously not. So I don't know the relationship he has with those guys. But as a former player, that's just unacceptable. I don't, because even if it's the conference has gotten better, like you still should be trying to put the best team available on the field. Like, I know you didn't recruit everybody out of high school on this team because that's done years in advance, even back when I was being recruited. I committed as a sophomore in high school. So like, I know these things, take years to do, but this is your transfer portal class. This is, these are for most part, these are your players. And to just openly admit that it's not good, like I don't, and because what I was saying earlier in the show, you've been in the games, like you haven't been getting your teeth kicked in every single game. Like you've been there. It's been poor decision making. It's been unclutch hitting. There's been things going on. So I just to not psychoanalyze this too much. It just sounds like a guy who hasn't been in a dugout in a while and is wildly frustrated about not having the answers to win some of these games. And that's disappointing because I expect that from a 19-year-old to maybe say, but a 67-year-old veteran coach who coached in this conference for 15 years and has only been removed for 3. That's just, I don't know what to say. Like it's just kind of dumbfounding.
And with all due respect, I mean, this is kind of the latest in a season of just comments that like I've been around this team almost every single game, and on the road you'll hear different things because you talk to these coaches one-on-one and stuff, and it's just like I scratch my head at some of the things I hear, and I'm just like what is going on? Like it's the throwing the players under the bus half the time. It's the, I go back to I didn't really think much of it at the time because, again, this was his first time in the rivalry, but him kind of undermining the Clemson-South Carolina rivalry to some extent and how important it is to people here. Like, I know that got some backlash at the time, but Carolina was playing good ball at the time. So it's like, all right, it's not the end of the world. If that had happened now, I think we'd be seeing the same type of reaction here. And again, it's Paul's thing. He's super honest and he's very just open. He's not going to, he's not holding back his punches. He's going to let you know the truth of the situation. And he's done that plenty of times this year. And whether you like it or not, I can respect it to some extent. I just don't think it was the right place to say something like that when I don't care where it is. Yes, it was on radio or whatever. It wasn't like it was on a one-on-one setting or something.
Right.
It's a private conversation. Literally out there for thousands of people to see. And obviously, I haven't checked the story in a little bit here, but I mean, that had 100K views, that story on Twitter alone. So, people are seeing it. And that brings up the question here from Big Red. What does the athletic department do after wild comments like that, along with lackluster play? Quite frankly, I'm not sure exactly because I haven't seen a situation like it. And again, it's not like he's saying outlandish things, no doubt about it. But it's not like he's, it could be far worse. It's just you don't say stuff like that. And then it compounds with the fact that you're not playing good baseball. And I don't know. It just screams admitting defeat to me in a lot of ways. Like, it's a poor excuse for the fact that this team, yes, the SEC is really, really good, but how could you not know that the league was going to be this tough? It was when you were there, a coach there at LSU. It all of a sudden wasn't. Now it's just, I don't know, man. And it's just, if you're looking at any reason why this season is kind of the way it is, I think you can look back at that and just be like, did he even what was the preparation like what was that interview like?
Yeah.
Job. That's kind of what I'm thinking with this whole thing.
That's exactly right. Like, what was the thought process going into it? Because he said all the right things when he's not here to do a rebuild. He's not. He isn't looking this to be a 2 or 3 year thing that takes to get turned around. It's obviously going to be that now. But I don't know what the expectations were on that, or like what that even interview process was like. And to Big Red, what does the athletic department do? I don't know with this one because it's a new one. It's the dawn of a new day.
You don't see this too often. I mean, you see honesty from coaches a lot of the time, but I don't think like something like this. Like, I don't hear. This is why you don't hear typically in sports, like, the fact that, oh, this team's so much better than us. Like, we just can't compete. The fact that you hear it is like, you don't say it because, players and coaches aren't going to do that. But to hear it in this way is just like, I don't know, man. It came off very I don't know, man. It's just...
I'm not the biggest fan of some of the coaches in this league. And as I describe what I'm talking about, I'm sure people will be able to put together who I'm talking about. But if there's 0% chance a coach from a distinguished program who boasts bravado would ever say his kids were not good enough to win, he would take, it'd be on him. It would be something that he was doing. It would never be like, well, we just don't got the bodies for this. We just don't have the dudes. Like, who wants to come play for that? And again, like I'm being, it is stacking up what, coach has done previously to now. But I mean, it's been a long time, man. I'm in a season this bad, your cachet kind of runs out. That goodwill that you've had for years and years, the longer ago it was, the shorter return on investment you got on it. And after some of the gaffes this season, and again, I think that's what I'm so frustrated about. These dudes have had chances to win these games, win these series. And have they come through? No, obviously that's, why we are where we are, but it's not that, they're losing 2 or 3 games every series, 15-0. Sure, there's some stinkers in there, but, you know, you look down the road. Shit. Sorry.
You're
Tennessee,
good.
I'm fired up. Tennessee just got run ruled to lose a series. Like, the teams get run ruled. I'm so, again, I'm just thinking as a player, like if I heard my coach say we're just not good enough, I could not imagine what would be going through my head. It is just laughable to think like how we got there and why that was appropriate to say. So I don't know what this athletic department's going to do. It's dawn of a new day. The new AD coach was not his hire. As we've talked about previously, I don't know what you do. That buyout's too high. Unless coach decides he's had enough and this just wasn't what he wanted to do, buckle up. I think he'll be here next year. So that's a conversation for a different day where we still got a month in the season, but it's frustrating to think about that. Comments like that are said, and then you got to go recruit now. I don't know.
And they're actively recruiting too, man. I mean, they are trying to get this thing turned around, and like, again, he's mentioned it throughout the year. There's no trading in season. There's no portal pickup waiver during the season. You're kind of just working with what you got. But I will say, man, like I don't remember a time where, maybe I'm wrong. There's so many games I've been to this year. I don't remember a time where I heard, this one's on me. Like that's on me. Like, a lot of the times I hear the pitching wasn't good enough. The hitting just wasn't good enough. There's so many different, it's not one accountability taken by your leader. It's different things. And I understand it because it's not all, some games it's going to be on the players, right? Some games it's just going to be that way. But at the end of the day, there are some things you're supposed to say and some things you're not supposed to say. I think this was one of those cases where you're not supposed to say something, and it's a bad look. And again, I don't know what's going to happen this offseason. I'm not going to put a ballpark on anything because I don't know what ultimately Jeremiah Donati or whoever is making these decisions, or Pulmonary, whatever they're thinking in terms of the long-term future. You're right, though. The buyout is just $1.3 million over the next 4 years. It may sound like chump change, but in reality, for a college program, it's not. And it's not, again, they've had so many buyouts over the years. I just can't see them getting rid of Paul yet, unless, like you said, unless he's just like, I just have had enough. I think it would kind of have to be that situation. And when you hear a comment like this, again, people are going to see this stuff. Like the internet, you could see anything, like the radio stuff that he said, the press conferences. You could literally go to YouTube and hear some of the things that he said. That would be a major red flag and turn off to me, to kind of hear my coach say something like that. Like, imagine being one of the guys this year that just hasn't performed to the level they hoped, and then they hear the fact that inadvertently that this loss was on them or something like that, or they just didn't perform enough. It's just like, how can you win like that? And I don't know. We're really getting into the rabbit hole here, and we'll pause this conversation and save it for another day, honestly. But my final thoughts on it, man, it was not the time or place to be saying something like that. And you got 3 weeks left in the season here. I mean, the team has just not performed to the level I don't think anyone expected or hoped. I was thinking maybe fringe regional, maybe go on a little bit of a run if you can get in. We're talking about a team that more likely than not in 3 weeks here, 3.5 weeks, when we have our our first off-season GC Live discussion, we're going to be talking about what the heck happened this year and how they probably get eliminated in the early stages in Hoover. So let's shift gears to the Florida series a little bit. 3 weeks left to go in the regular season, 9 games left to go in the conference. And this is a Florida team that, just like South Carolina, was in a spot where they started off SEC play awfully. I mean, they were like 0-11, 0-12 to begin league play. And I had no idea where the wins were going to be coming from. But I wish South Carolina had this option. They got to play Florida got to play Missouri in a 3-game series. And, of course, that seemingly woke them up a little bit, as they just took 2 out of 3 against Arkansas. They took a series at Mississippi State. They have 8 wins now in the conference, and they're 3rd and 16, so they still have a ways to go to get into the postseason here. But this is another team that I feel like South Carolina can beat, but I think it really depends on 3 things. What's Nathan Hall's availability? Is he going to play this weekend? If you don't have him out there, who's stepping up and filling the shoes of Petry and Hall? Who's going to come through in those RBI situations? And then what are you getting from your pitching staff? I mean, are you going to get enough quality starts to where they're giving you a chance to win? And if that's the case, can the bullpen nail the game down? A lot to think about there.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, and Florida, and on the flip side, Florida's looking at this like, well, this is another series to get us closer to the postseason. Yeah, these guys, it is going to be a lot of soul searching on, to your point, who's going to step up. But at the same time with that, they can't. Again, it's hard to get in that mindset, but you can't think, how am I going to replace Ethan? How am I going to replace Nathan? You got to do what you're good at. And you've got to figure out kind of a way to create some chaos out there. But at the end of the day, with possibly not having your 2 best offensive players, it's going to be, can the pitching, keep these at 5 runs or less, because I don't know about the offense, if they'll be able to slug it enough to score more than 5 runs. So it's can Brandon Stone recreate his start from 2 weeks ago, which is a lot to ask of a kid, but can he recreate something like that? Can Jake McCoy harness it all in for 6 innings, 7 innings, and then to your point, can the bullpen just find a way to collectively have a good outing together? It's been way too much Jekyll and Hyde for this group this year. So the biggest key is, can they as a staff put it together for 27 innings?
Yeah, and they weren't able to do it at Kentucky. They only led for 2 innings in that entire series. And as you've mentioned multiple times, they have had their chances to win games. Make no mistake about it. Yes, they have been blown out a few times, and that might ultimately, if they even get close to being within range of the postseason, that ultimately might keep them out. I think it's hard to put a team in when they've lost 17-0. They've been run ruled, I think, almost twice by Arkansas, if I'm remembering correctly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just so many gaffable moments, and it's just like, how is this team? I mean, I see how this team is where they are. It's just, I just don't think they're they're very good at all. But I mean, this final month of the regular season here, I mean, Florida's in a spot where I think South Carolina could play spoiler this weekend. Like Florida, they have this series. They go to Texas next week, and then they close out the regular season against Alabama at home. I mean, they need about 5-6 wins to feel pretty decent about getting into the postseason, going into Hoover. So you already mentioned a key. I'll ask you this now. What are your predictions for the weekend? Who's the X factor got to be, and just what are you looking to see this weekend from this Gamecock team?
I worry about them being able to score enough runs. I don't think they're going to be able to score enough to win the series. I think someone will go out there and they'll piece together enough, on the mound to win a game. I don't think they'll get swept. I think if you look at it, I think the only time they've been swept this year was in conference was the Arkansas series. I could be misremembering
You got swept
that
by Arkansas, Tennessee, and A&M.
Oh, that's right. They blew the Tennessee game. That's right.
Yeah,
that's
like that a lot.
Yeah, they blew the Tennessee game. So I mean, sweep's definitely on the table. I don't think Florida's caliber of any of those teams. So I think they find a way to win one. I don't think they're going to have the offensive juice. But the X factor, I'll go back to the name you said. I think Kennedy Jones has to be a force in the lineup for them to even have a chance. So I think if Kennedy can get something going and the guys can kind of feed off that, I think the guys just need someone to come through with a big hit and they can just feed off of it. Because when it's Ethan and Nathan, it's almost expected. Hey, our guys are up. Cool, they got a hit. Good job. Let's all go run out there. But gosh, I was watching a clip of someone. It might have been Blake last year. Getting a big hit and the dugout lost their mind, and it's just like there haven't been enough of those. Those plays, situations. And I think if somebody like Kennedy, who's a veteran player, has been around the program for a couple of years, if he can be the one to get the big hit, maybe that can galvanize the whole dugout. And these guys, go in there and play with the carefree attitude. Just play with a little bit of swagger, because they're not playing with their heads down, but they're also not playing with any swagger. So hopefully that's kind of my long way of saying Kennedy Jones is the X factor, I think. And I think they win 1 out of 3 this weekend.
I feel you. I'm on the same wavelength with you, man. I think they do drop 2 out of 3 this weekend. I don't know where they're going to get a win. It's going to come at some point. I think it's just, again, my main concerns are far beyond this offense. I mean, the offense is what it is at this point. I know what they are without Ethan and Nathan. And the offense I saw the other day that scored runs, 3 of their 5 runs came, get this, there was a two pitch clock violations, a balk, and a wild pitch that led to a run being scored in the second inning. A run scored on a bases loaded walk, and then there was an errant pickoff throw that allowed a run to score. That was 3 of their 5 runs the other night against Charleston Southern. They are,
goodness gracious.
Yeah, if that's how they're scoring runs this weekend, they're going to get swept. But I feel like there is going to be a game here where they're going to put together a nice performance and they're going to be able to get a win. But it's going to be a low-scoring weekend, I think, for South Carolina, and I just don't see them winning the series unless, for whatever reason, someone just comes through. And I'll get into my X factor now, the player I'm watching for. I would say Kennedy Jones, but who knows if he's even going to be in the lineup just because everything changes so constantly. One guy I know that will be in the lineup pretty consistently, I would imagine, this weekend, Bo Hollins. He had a tough weekend last week against Kentucky. He has been one of the driving forces with this team as a freshman. Him and KJ have been the cornerstones on the corner infield spots. With Pett down, with Hall potentially down, Bo has been one of the better players on this team this year. I know he went through a little bit of a slump. So does everyone. I'm looking for him to be a guy this weekend that he doesn't need to hit 2 or 3 home runs. He doesn't need to be the hero. But if he can just get on base consistently, get into scoring position, drive runs in when the moment is there for him, we're talking about a chance to win a game here, maybe 2. But it's got to take more than that. It's got to take the pitching. It's got to take the defense being better. Paul Maneri was saying last week at Kentucky the defense had played the worst it did in that series finale. It's got to be better, limit the mistakes, and we'll see what happens. And I don't see this team winning 2 out of 3. Got a question here to kind of round things out from Big Red. How many teams can qualify for the postseason? Is there a magic number to look for, or are we just playing spoiler at this point? So 64 teams make the NCAA tournament, just like basketball. South Carolina's not going to be a 4 seed in any postseason tournament here because those are normally reserved for like the mid-major teams that are getting in and stuff. More likely than not, if they were to hypothetically get to about 13 to maybe 12 wins in the SEC or win the SEC tournament or heck, win 13, 12 games, then go on a little bit of a run in Hoover, and that gets them in, we're talking about maybe a 3 seed in some regional or a 2 seed. But I think it's still just an uphill battle, man. And I don't know. I mean, at this point, I feel like you are just trying to play spoiler, but I know that's the mentality this team is not going to, be playing with here. They're going to be playing with that backs up against the wall, not going to give up sort of thing.
All right. I just looked it up and this is via Google. So, if this is wrong, blame Google. There are 29 conference champions that receive automatic berths. So you're looking at 35 at-large bids. So unless South Carolina is one of the conference tournament winners, they've got to be better than 35 other teams to try to get in. So that's kind of what you're looking at. And, you figure one SEC champion. I bet there's 9 or 10 teams. I don't know. It's been a top heavy conference this year, but with the 16 league, with a 16 team league, I'd say SEC probably gets 9 berths. So 8 at-large bids. So you're already down to, you're already down 27 at-large bids that are not SEC.
It's not.
So, yeah, you're playing spoiler. You're trying to win the SEC tournament. So, I mean, and we'll get to this when we get to that preview, before the last series of the year. I'll be fascinated to see how they set the pitching up that weekend when the only way you're getting to the postseason is to win the conference. Brandon Stowe, Jake McCoy might throw two innings that weekend and just, you gear up to try to get into the winners bracket of the conference tournament. But again, we'll talk about that later. But those are the rough numbers for you. 29 or 31 automatic bids. So you're looking between 33 and 35 at-large bids.
Yeah. And again, this conversation will, for all intents and purposes, probably be over if they get swept this weekend. I mean, there's no way they are getting in with 13 or less wins. There's just no way. Nope. And honestly, man, you bring up the point. Like last year, this team got in with a 13-17 record in conference play, but they also had a lot of good wins on that schedule. Like they swept Vanderbilt. They took 2 out of 3 at Florida. They took down Kentucky. They swept. I think they took 2 or 3 from Kentucky. Yep. I mean, they had some big series wins, and they also didn't get swept a ton. I don't think they got swept. They got swept the last 2 weekends of the year, and that took them out of contention for a national seed. This year, I mean, look, you lose a series at any point the rest of the way, you're done. You are not coming back from it. And this may be your best weekend to get a series win, because I don't think it's happening next week at Auburn. Auburn's a top 10 team, by the way, and then LSU comes here in 2 weeks. I mean, we're more likely than not, the real conversation we need to be having here is go back to 2019. That was the year. That was Mark Kingston's second year at South Carolina. That was the year after they came 1 win away from going to Omaha in 2018. I bring that up because that season, I've heard so much about how bad that year was. And that was before I got on the beat. They went 8-22 in conference play.
Yeah, I was pulling it up now.
There is a very real possibility this team does not meet that mark. If it's not going to be this weekend, you're not getting to 8 or more wins. Heck, you're not getting to 13 at that point if you lose a series this weekend. So, point being, you got to go about 8-1, 7-2 to even get yourself in a little bit of the conversation. But the work is just beginning at that point, and you have got to find ways to, win games in the SEC tournament. And we wouldn't be having this conversation so, badly right now if they had just taken care of business in the Oklahoma series. They had just won that game 3. They have a series win. Tennessee, I know they got swept. They had multiple chances to win multiple games in that series. Mississippi State, they didn't show up the last 2 games, in my opinion. A&M, I don't know what happened there. I mean, Kentucky, they had chances. Like, again, that's the story of the year. They had opportunities. It's not like this team is just deadbeat done. Like, they are struggling to win a series at any point. Yes, they are, but they're not looking terrible doing it all the time. Nope. They are at least looking like a team that has opportunities to win. They just are not capitalizing.
Yep. No, exactly. That's the frustrating part, And I mean, I will say that was, bad season for them in 2019. They won series against Clemson, which will buy you a couple extra years. Yeah, no, it's, just looking back, it's Arkansas was a bad weekend, but yeah, I mean, Tennessee chances to win, Mississippi State chances to win, A&M chances to win, other than the middle game, man, they just it's
just rough. It's rough. So 3 weeks left to go in the regular season here, and we will see how it goes. First pitch tomorrow night, 7 p.m., SEC Network Plus. In fact, all 3 games are going to be on SEC Network Plus. Brandon Stone going up against Liam Peterson tomorrow night. Should be a good pitching matchup there. Saturday, Jake McCoy against Aiden King, a freshman right-hander for the Gators. And then Sunday is TBA day for both teams. We'll see if it's Dylan Eskew. I would imagine it's him. Who knows who Florida's going to throw. But there's a lot going on at the stadium this weekend. Good reason to get out. You got the 1975 team being honored tomorrow night. And then on Saturday, there's going to be a little bit of a ceremony for the 2010 and 11 teams. And they also have that SEC storied documentary In Spirit coming out on May 14th. And Ethan, I know you're excited about that. And then Sunday, I don't think it's May the 4th. I don't think anything really specific is going on that day other than they're giving away like a poster or something. But the point is, it's a good weekend to get out to the ballpark. And, at worst, you're just seeing some baseball. So any final thoughts, man?
No, like I said, get out there, catch some games this weekend. The guys would definitely appreciate it. You'll get to, watch some great teams be honored. And like I said, definitely check out my former teammate, Jake Williams' documentary coming out on SEC Story on May 14th. I think it'll be a good one. I know Jake, put a lot of hard work into that and, a lot of years into it. I think he started originally working on that, prior to 2020. So I know Jake's been working on that hard, and I'm super happy for him that he's finally able to get that finished product to the masses. And I think it's going to be a really, really cool story for him to tell.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. Again, that's May 14th on SEC Network, and that'll be a really cool documentary. It's supposed to be a 1-hour documentary covering the 2010 and 11 teams and all the magic those years had, as you well know. So that is going to do it for us for now. Again, Carolina kicking off a 3-game series with Florida tomorrow night, 7 p.m., 4 p.m., 1:30 p.m., all games on SEC Network Plus. At Founders Park, we'll have all coverage for you on GamecockCentral.com. So be sure to stay locked in and don't miss a second of it. So it's going to do it for us for now. For Ethan Carter, I'm Jack Veltri. We will reconvene next week and we'll talk about the Auburn series. Take care, guys. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you again soon.